David? David, is that you? David? Get in the car, drive. David, I saw you go in that building. Maybe he's just some foreign dude who's like, leave me alone. I just want quiet time.
Remember when we first met John McClane? Argyle picked him up from the plane and took him down the Nakatomi Tower at the Christmas party. And the terrorists were overzealous, but it was sweet when they killed Ellis. And with a little help from Alan, John McClane kicked ass.
Welcome back to Shat The Movies, the podcast where we answer the question, were the movies we loved when we were growing up really that good? Have you ever caught yourself thinking, why don't they make movies like they used to? Can you still remember spending your Friday night searching for the perfect movie rental at Blockbuster Video? Do you know what Blockbuster Video is? If you answered yes, and this is the podcast for you, I am one of your hosts, Gene Lyons, and alongside me are my co-hosts, Ash, Will You Die For Him, Quinn.
Hi, y'all.
And Big D, Dick Ebert.
Good evening.
Each week, we take a look back in time and decide if our favorite films still hold up. The movies we cover are chosen by you, the listeners, who generously commission the films you love. If you'd like to see all the movies we have covered, will cover, or want to choose one for yourself, please visit shatthemovies.com and have a look. At the end of each podcast, we'll provide you, the audience, with the number of wipes each movie would take to get off your respective butts. So thank you so much for listening. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and share with a friend. That's how we help the podcast grow. Additionally, please subscribe to our sister podcast, Shat on TV. We review TV series such as Westworld, Taboo, American Gods, Lovecraft Country, Game of Thrones, True Detective, and Watchmen. You can find all that information and past episodes at shatontv.com. And finally, if you'd like to hang out with us live all week long, follow and subscribe to our Twitch channel, shatthemovies.com/Twitch, where we play video games, host watch parties, and have special events. All that being said, Big D, what movie are we reviewing today?
So, Gene, this week, one of our listeners, who is a prolific commissioner, this is actually their fourth commission. And one of the genres that I think we have underserved our listeners is we do tons and tons of comedies. We do like kind of some feel-good movies. We've even done more cartoons than this. But for this week's commission, Emmett wrote in and said, I want you to do the 1988 religious horror film, The Seventh Sign.
Well, and Emmett wrote in and said, hello, Gene, Big D, Ash, and Shat The Movies fans. Thank you for taking me up on the 1988 film, The Seventh Sign. I wanted to hopefully find a film that few of the podcast listeners have watched. I'm curious if any of you have seen it. Since my last movie commission, I've really enjoyed your new team with Ash. The three of you are a really great trio and always bring in great personal stories and deep insights into movies, characters, and actors that you cover. Congrats on nearly 10 million downloads. Will The Seventh Sign be the movie that puts it over the top? Not likely. But I do hope people enjoy the movie if they watch it or just listen to your review on it. I was a junior in high school when this came out, and looking at the dates, it basically went straight to DVD the same year it was in the theaters. So I likely saw this at home on a Blockbuster movie rental. I remember being fascinated by the apocalyptic tale presented in the film, and because I was in high school, no doubt marveled at a naked Demi Moore in this film. I was raised Catholic, so to me, many of the biblical references to the end times were believable and kept me interested in the story it told. The ending, without spoiling too much, was something I remember being heartwarming and emotional, and I was glad to see that part still held up when I rewatched this in anticipation of the podcast. I remember the film being cinematically dark and grainy. That seems to hold up even with the Blu-ray release. The character of Abby Quinn is still intriguing to me, and the character of David Bannon is likewise captivating, with his German undertone and strong stage presence. I like the mysteriousness of characters and the dream sequences Abby has, and its gradual revelation of who the characters are in the dream. To me, it makes for good storytelling, but the movie does have its shortcomings, like Abby snooping around her tenant's apartment. Hello, we have privacy laws in California, and her husband's horrible ability to represent his client and get him off death row. Not to mention the portrayal of a young man with Down syndrome into some kind of religious monster. There's a scene where Abby is driving on an empty Los Angeles freeway that made me laugh. And how the hell did she get into the execution area and interrupt it? Yep. And all, for me, the movie holds up, still as a slightly above average movie. I'm going to go with Big D's new rating score and give it a 2.4 wipes. Look forward to hearing your take on it and seeing how my scores line up. Keep up the great work. Can't wait to commission more classics that may have missed people's movie list. Emmett in Orange, California.
Well, The Seventh Sign is a 1988 American apocalyptic horror film directed by Carl Schultz. The title and pilot reference the seven seals described in the Book of Revelation, the final book of the New Testament of the Bible. The film received negative reviews and grossed $18.8 million at the box office. So, Big D Ash, we always ask what your memories are or where you were upon the release of the movie. Let's start with you, Big D. What are your memories of The Seventh Sign?
So I don't know if I've said this before, but I grew up basically without religion. Never went to church. But for some reason, this genre, I called it, religious horror. They call it apocalyptic horror here in the description. These movies always got my attention because all of it to me, I could be watching like Lord of the Rings or this, and it was all like, ooh, okay. You got to take the ring and put it in the mountain. Oh, there's seven signs. A red sun. Oh, no, the Red Sea. To me, it all was cool stuff. I was like, wow, I want to watch it. And this movie, I don't remember it, though. It never really stuck in my head. I saw it because as we went through the movie, I was like, yeah, I've seen this. But the one to me in this genre that I love and I will want people to see, because I think most of our listeners, unless they're getting up there close to 50, will have seen it. John Carpenter did one of these movies, The Prince of Darkness. I don't know many people who have seen it. It's about a priest. Again, he then gets a professor and his students to come to an LA basement of a church because there was some brotherhood of the sleep, some old order of the church that communicated through dreams. And the priest has found this green cylinder that they figure out is sentient, and it turns into all of these apocalyptic signs, people having dreams. I know Emmett's hoping I liked it, but this one did not have the same reaction for me.
Okay, so two thoughts here. One is, Big D, you are so overdue for watching Buffy the Vampire Slayer. So fucking overdue. But second, if you're going to make an apocalyptic horror or religious horror movie, whatever you want to call it, let me give you some advice. Do not call it the insert number, insert noun, because I will get confused and the audience will get confused. I have seen The Ninth Gate, which is about as well known as The Seventh Sign, but there's also The Seventh Seal. Honestly, in all my goth movie watching, this one never came up. And I think that if you title a movie this way, you're almost going to guarantee that $18 million at the box office because everyone feels like they've seen it or they just don't care.
Yeah, I don't disagree with anything either of you said, although I will say that movies like this are a favorite genre of mine. I talked last week on Platoon about how war movies are not necessarily my genre of choice. This is anything possession, exorcist, demony, apocalypses, weird demony sex, love it, right? And yeah. I knew I had seen this once growing up, and I thought I had liked it. But then I realized when I was watching it that I didn't remember anything about it. And I think what happened, I had a Gene moment where Jacob's Ladder and The Ninth Gate and The Seventh Seal, the Ingmar Bergman film, all melded into one blob with Demi Moore's huge nipples. That became my memory of this film. And so it was an interesting experience getting to watch it again because I didn't remember it.
If you guys didn't get the subliminal messages that we just shared with you, commission Prince of Darkness and get ready for Jacob's Ladder.
Yes, and watch Buffy.
Yeah.
Big D, let's get to the trailer.
The time is coming.
I can't wait. 2 months to go.
The signs are beginning.
Found this. It's incredible.
The seals are breaking. The day is approaching.
Hello.
Hi.
The mystery is unfolding.
I need to know what this says. I need to know what language it is.
It's about the apocalypse.
Your baby's due in February, the 29th.
How'd you know that?
There's a whole chain of signs, like a countdown. The Bible's filled with them.
One of the signs has to be stopped.
But how, Mrs. Quinn? Do you know how?
It's time for you to know, Abby.
Stay away!
There's nothing you can do. You can't stop it. Show me you have hope, Abby.
in the seventh sign.
Around the world, unusual phenomena are occurring that bear resemblance to the signs of the biblical apocalypse. At each of these locations, a mysterious traveler opens a sealed envelope just prior to the event taking place. The Vatican tasks Father Lucci with investigating these events. Meanwhile, Abby Quinn, a pregnant woman, is married to Russell, a defense lawyer representing Jimmy Zaragoza, a man with Down syndrome on trial for murdering his incestuous parents because God told him to.
So I know there's some actors that we always look forward to seeing. I know like Bill Paxton, like when he comes up, we typically really love him. And there's some others along the way. And for me, one of the actors from like this time period is Michael Biehn. Like I absolutely love him. I loved him in Terminator. I love him in Aliens. I love him in anything he's been in. I think he's super sexy. One of my first crushes. And I was super stoked about seeing him in this. Like I got really excited when he walked on screen. And then I don't think I've ever seen more of a formal definition of what it means to be sidelined in a film than what happens to him here, because he's nothing in this movie. And it was a huge bummer for me. He's completely underutilized. The character is completely bland. He just has a couple moments where like he slams his hand on a table. It's like, don't you want to live? Like, you know, and that's like the extent of the acting that he does in this movie. And I don't know, it bummed me out.
Yeah, man, they Terminatored him again. It's another movie where you have a female lead facing an unstoppable disaster. And then Michael Bihn's like, hey, I'm just going to be here being ineffective for a while with my spiky hair.
And my scruff.
I'm going to leave you alone. Do your own thing. I'll try to call you later.
Are you in danger? Maybe you should go home where the danger is. This is Michael Biehn signing off. Another character in this movie that was completely useless was Fear. Like, there are shitty things happening in Haiti. There's war in Nicaragua. There's crazy weather events. And I'm like, this is 2021. None of this would even be front page news today. And then we get like the movie's attempts at jump scares. Like, it's like, it's Ace the dog. He put his paws on you. Oh, no. Or like the school administrator asking Abby what her religion is. Like, is this shit supposed to be scary? Because I thought this was a horror movie.
Yeah, guys, I knew I was in trouble when like the scariest part of the opening was the kid picks up a fish and it's hot. Like, it was like, ooh, it's a hot fish. And then the kid jumps in and runs, like drops it and just like jumps and runs away, right? Like I was like, well, shit, this is not starting out well. And that also was a bummer for me because this was supposed to be a scary film. I love scary movies. I love to be scared. And this one wasn't. And I think the thing that surprised me the most is I know that like this isn't one that's on like the top of our list, like in our repertoire of films that we recall from this era, but also from this era are a lot of random films that are downright frightening and terrifying. Perfect example, if we're going to make a list of please commission, The Exorcist 3, I'll repeat that again, yes, The Exorcist 3 has the
Emmett.
greatest jump scare of all time. It is a phenomenal film. I get chills just thinking about this jump scare. That's scary. This wasn't. It was boring. And I don't know about y'all, but I need a little fear with my demon-y apocalypse.
Yeah, and I think we're going to talk about this throughout the cast. This was paint by numbers. It was everything that you could do to try to set the mood of being strange, but it never quite clicked. And I can't even tell you where I saw this. I was in a YouTube rabbit hole one day, and it was like a Foley. It was the people who do the special effects in the movies, and they were talking about what makes an effective horror film. And it was the new version of The Invisible Man. And they were saying that when your brain hears sounds that don't match the scene, there's like a disconnection to it, makes you feel uneasy. So a lot of times, even if you don't see, say, some curtains blowing in the wind, they'll do the sound of sheets, like just kind of like fabric. Or a lot of times they will use wind chimes or bells slowed down or sped up. All throughout this movie, all I hear are the goddamn bells in the background, super subtle. Bling, blong, bling, blong. And I'm like, God damn it, why did I watch that video? They kept doing it. And everything from the sounds to the scenes to the imagery to the lighting, It felt very paint by numbers.
Guys, I wish they hadn't done an apocalyptic horror and just done like a legal drama, right? Because I was really into this Jimmy Zaragoza story. Like, tell me about that, right? So Jimmy Zaragoza, he's this man with Down syndrome. He's played by John Taylor, who is an actor with Down syndrome. And first of all, I was relieved to see the representation here, right? I think John Taylor kicked ass in this movie. He was very, very good. And he's gripping in this role. And I wanted to see this movie play out through Jimmy's story rather than Abby's. That would have been much more fascinating, is that you think you're watching this sort of legal drama, but this weird shit is happening around the lawyer and like what is going on there. And then it's the lawyer's wife. And then, holy shit, it's Jesus. Now that's a movie.
Yeah, and we've dealt with this type of storyline before. I felt like it was a Sling Blade, where we have Carl, who plays like an intellectually challenged kid who kills his mother because she's cheating on the father. So he gets sent away to a mental hospital. We see him get out. Here it's Jimmy who decides to kill his mother and father because they were brother and sister. And I don't get it, because he's like, oh, God told me to kill. But then in the 10 Commandments, it's thou shalt not kill. So I do not get it. As someone who's not religious, I don't know how they can read into the Bible whatever they want to justify their actions.
Now, Big D, I'm no junior rabbinical student, so I don't know if I'm fit to speak on the Bible or go get one from a cheap motel. But I think thou shalt not kill means you shouldn't unlawfully kill anyone, like as in murder. Because if we want to talk about reasons for killing people, the Bible's got like 100. It's like, did they do anything? Go for it.
Yeah, I agree with you here, Gene, for sure. But I have to say, in principle, I also agree with you, Big D. I've made no qualms on other podcasts about being raised in an incredibly religious household, a Pentecostal household. So like this end time shit, like from birth, like this was like ingrained in me. And if the Bible meant everything that it says, like that everybody says that it does, like we'd all be damned to like all the types of hells, right? Like, I mean, the first time I got a tattoo, that would have been it. And then, you know, I kept doing it. So I don't disagree. I mean, interpretation is key. And as word people, I'm sure you can appreciate, Gene, like, you know, spinning what you want to meet your agenda. And that's what they're doing here in this movie too.
I mean, he says it's not murder if you punish the guilty. Who the hell is he to judge them? Isn't that another part of the Bible? Don't judge others. That
Judge
we're not the ones.
lest ye be judged. So if you're willing to be judged, then you can judge others. So it's like, I want to kill you because I think it's justified. So I'm believing that if I'm judged, I will be found worthy of killing you. So I'm accepting the fact that I'll be judged like I'm judging you. And hopefully, you know, God sides with me.
A lot of judging going on here.
Holy shit, I feel like we just stumbled on a new Twitch stream, which is going to be Ash explaining
The
Christianity
Bible.
to us.
Please no.
Chat on the Bible. Well, Abby and Russell rent a room to a mysterious traveler who identifies himself as David Bannon. Abby also learns of the apocalyptic signs that have occurred, and combined with her nightmares and David's suspicious behavior, she begins to worry that something terrible is taking place. She discovers an ancient note that leads her to believe that he intends to harm her child. David tells her that God's grace is empty, and soon no souls will remain to be given to newborn people. Abby panics and stabs David, but the stab wound bursts with light rather than blood. So while I applaud John Taylor in the role of Jimmy Zaragoza, and while I applaud efforts to make Jürgen Prochnow, a German, look more Middle Eastern, I don't understand why they didn't just use a Middle Eastern actor. Regardless, I totally go to church if it was just a creepy German speaking to me in cryptic mysteries. Like, I don't know if this is what Lutherans do or like pre-Vatican II, but like, this is the kind of church I'd be down with. If I just showed up, you just said a bunch of shit to me for 2 hours and I got kind of spooked.
But I think this got him the role in The Mouth of Madness. He plays that same bizarre character, the one who's in like those visions. So I think he made a career out of this role. I think it fits him.
I just love that continuously you prove your gothicness and the fact that the only like religious institution you're willing to go to is like the creepy, moody, like, you know, lit by candlelight kind of, you know, ceremony where the music ceremony is like real chill and just as a beat where we all just kind of step, touch, and wave our hands gently together and then sit down isolated in rows.
Fuck yeah, I'm into that. I also love that Big D thinks that Jürgen Prochnow's performance in The Seventh Sign got him his role in the Mouth of the Madness, not the fact that he was in Das Boot, which is a somewhat more popular film.
Nope, it was this one. Well, and, you know, we haven't talked a lot about Demi Moore, but I'm not going to get into, because God, the emails I don't want them to come, about how just annoying the way they write Abby, that she's just this frantic lady running around. So let this be the one time I can say that and get that out of the way. And speaking of that franticness, like, guys, I mean, she panics a little quickly here, right? Like, she's terrified of this guy running to hurt her baby because she finds some old shit that has some weird writing on it and assumes it's evil, right? Like the first time she picks it up. And I don't know, I think this is a little bit of a stretch, and I think I take it personally because like at my office at work, if somebody didn't know me and came in, I have a vampire stake, a wand with weird engravings. I have a D&D box with elvish writing on it that's a lockbox with on the inside some D&D dice that are like beautiful and spent too much money on that have these strange markings. And so they'd be like, oh, well, she's a witch, right? So let's not jump to conclusions to me.
Yeah, but it's not just the shit you have, it's the shit you do. Like, yes, he's got some weird clippings, but also, Ash, do you walk around telling people like, I know when your baby's due? I saw it on the calendar. Good joke, me. Do you just hang around the rain, like staring at nothing in particular? Do you fucking disappear into churches without a trace?
I mean, I definitely stand in the rain staring at nothing for sure, but the others maybe not.
See, but I think her being frantic and wild is trying to make us think that there could be another answer for everything, that she's mentally ill. She tried to kill herself, obviously, because they show the scars. So I'm thinking her manic nature and the way she's freaking out, I'm starting to question whether we're seeing what we're actually think we're seeing.
She's pregnant. She's got hormones.
No, I think she's just fucking nuts. I think she's got mental issues.
She's pregnant and she's a lady who went nuts because she had multiple miscarriages. Ooh.
No, I think she needs some professional help that the husband's probably tried to get. I mean, the two of them together, the husband is working with a religious murderer who's on death row. He might look at David and go, I don't know if this is a good idea to let you rent the house behind ours, right? No, it's not a good idea. He keeps walking into their house, and it's not like a normal conversation. He's spouting off shit like man killing man, famine, things have to take their course, the death of Jesus. Get him out of the house. They're either asking for it, she's crazy, or they just want this to happen.
I would understand renting out the room if you needed the money. Like Abby's pregnant, she can't work, she's got bed rest or some shit like that. She can't. No. Abby's fucking running all around town on like infinite errands, snooping into other people's shit. Maybe Abby should take that energy and get a fucking job so you don't have to be renting your room out to a creep.
Yeah, and guys, where's the background check? Like, she just, like, gives him the keys. And I know it's the 80s and, like, background checks weren't as, like, easy to do, but don't you at least ask the dude for some references that you can, like, I don't know, call? I mean, that was the most unbelievable part of it. It's like, I need to check it with my husband, but I think this is going to work out. It's like, what?
Also, like, the way to find the creepiest people to rent your room is to advertise in the newspaper. Like, you know who's reading newspaper? Guys who clip out newspaper clippings.
Yes, exactly.
It's like Craigslist today. It's like if you rented out a room on Craigslist, like it would not be a good look.
But on the flip side, Abby is just way too fucking snoopy. Like, she's a pregnant woman that is 10 times more active than I am. Like, she's following David Bannon around. Maybe Dave's just out for a walk. Like, you don't have a right to chase him. She is fucking pregnant and chasing him just because he's staying in her house. That's like if somebody rented an Airbnb from you and you just started stalking them.
Yeah, and he likes it. He said, I just like a quiet place. I don't need a TV. And then she's like, David, is that you? David, get in the car, drive. David, I saw you go in that building. Maybe he's just some foreign dude who's like, leave me alone. I just want quiet time.
Yeah, and Ash, to your point, like, it's weird shit that she found in his apartment, but that's all consistent with his alibi.
Yeah.
Like he's like, I travel a lot. I translate, ancient texts. So kind of fucking makes sense. Meanwhile, Abby's like wandering into churches. She's snooping through people's shit. She's stabbing Jesus, making friends with random Jewish kids. Like, what's your problem, Abby?
Yeah, and Abby's having a problematic pregnancy. She has an episode. The doctors are telling her to calm down. The husband should be saying, let's do everything. Let's get some candles. Let's get some Yanni playing. Let's get you nice and calm. Instead, he leaves her home and she's watching the news about gangland shootings of kids, bombings, genocide, wars, radical terrorist groups. She's running around the town. She takes these ideas, right? And she just spins them up. Before you know it, she's in the library late night researching. She meets some strange kid, goes to a motel room with him. I'm starting to think that the risk to her pregnancy is not from David, it's from herself.
Yeah, well, and David's taking huge risks here with these flimsy ass seals. I mean, growing up, when I was reading Revelations by force, I thought that the 7 seals were going to be like substantial because, like, when you break them, like the plagues come, right? So you'd figure there'd be like some locks on it or something. But these are like tiny bits of paper that I feel like you could like accidentally snap. Like you're walking down the street and it just like breaks. When she picks it up, I got the most nervous in the scene where she picked up the seal, and I was like, is she going to break it? Is it going to crack and a plague of flies come? I mean, you'd think that Jesus coming a second time or third time, whatever he is, that, he'd plan better than this.
I mean, they are incredibly old, though. Like, a figure of wax is like thousands of years old. It's probably going to be pretty brittle. And weren't they supposed to be opened by lambs or some shit? Like, lambs don't even have thumbs. Like,
it was a 7-headed lamb.
Oh, so it's a pretty big lamb.
And then like there's 7 lamps that get poured out, and then 7 seals that are broken, and 7 trumpets. There's a lot of 7s.
I think it was a trap. I think it's meant to be fragile, so you can,
just
it's kind of like
shit.
You lay it out there and you're like, hey, let's see which idiot comes over here and cracks the seal. I'm just going to sit it over there. When it starts bleeding, you're like, yep, I know it was you. It's like a die pack today when you rob a bank.
Well, David is revealed to be the second coming of Jesus Christ, and Abby is the reincarnation of Seraphia, the woman who offered Jesus water only to be turned away by Cartiphilus, who is Pilate's porter who struck Jesus. Abby connects with Avi, a rabbinical student who helps her understand the events. Father Lucci finds Abby and hears her concerns. She spots a ring on his finger identical to the one that Cartiphilus wore and learns that Lucci is Cartiphilus himself, who was cursed to wander the earth until Christ's return to judge humanity. He intends to allow the apocalypse to take place so that his curse will finally be broken. Okay, so at this point in the movie, we get the infamous bath scene. Now, if you are a child of the 80s or 90s and you understand how hard it was to see a naked woman because you didn't have internet access and you were a kid that wasn't hanging out with a lot of naked women, you understand how important these moments are. Demi Moore is going to be naked in The Seventh Sign. When we get to this bath scene, I thought there is no fucking way they're going to show us a naked, pregnant Demi Moore. They go to the mirror. I'm like, okay, she's going to, just get slightly out of frame. We're not going to see it. It's going to be a mirror shot. And then bam, I have seen my first naked pregnant woman. And I thought, man, that's a really good prosthetic.
Yeah, I mean, she did that famous pose when she was pregnant years later on the cover of that magazine where she was naked and pregnant. And I thought it was a really good prosthetic. The great thing were the nipples, because your nipples get huge and really dark when you're pregnant. They're like fucking bullseyes so that the baby can find it. Yes, Gene.
Do they go back, or
they go completely? Well, some women, the size don't go back, but the color goes back.
And listeners, I know that's a rude question to ask because when I adopted my dog Juniper, she had puppies just before that when she was at the shelter, and my mom asked for the next 18 months, "Are her nipples going to go back?" I was like, "Mom, I love her. Don't worry about the nipples." So listen, ladies out there, I love you and your nipples. Don't worry about it. It was just a curiosity. That's all. There's nothing wrong with nipples in either direction.
But Gene, you've talked about your battle with yourself, visuals of your nipples.
Monstrous.
And that affected your self-esteem. So I think if anyone can understand the peer pressure of the visual appearance of their nipples, I think you're free to say it.
Yeah. I mean, I have no problem with you asking nipple questions. That's fine. But the other thing that I think that isn't quite so accurate is she's like really pregnant. And I'm sure Big D can relate to this because he's had a pregnant naked lady in his life. But, you know, by the time you're this pregnant, when you're naked, like you can see like the baby moving constantly. Like you can see like a foot or like its head poking out or like its hand. Like my kids used to get their feet caught in my ribs and you could see like their toes that I had to like push back in. Like, that would have been cool. That would have been creepier, right? Like if you see like this soulless baby like rolling around and waving its arms, like give us some gore.
Soulless baby.
It is
I think a soulless
baby.
baby's gonna be kicking around too much. The soulless baby's not moving. Maybe
just because it doesn't have a soul doesn't mean it can't kick.
That's Ash's t-shirt. Let's do it. So I feel like a broken record here, but once again, at this point in the movie, I feel like the focus is all wrong. So earlier I said that the movie should be focused on Jimmy's legal case. Here, I think the movie should be focused on the mystery that we're seeing play out before us. We got this old priest. He spots Father Lucci. He's suspicious because he thinks he recognizes him. And we're left, Big D, like you mentioned, with that question in our heads. Is this an old man who's just confused, or is there something really wrong with Father Lucci? That's interesting. That's something to chew on. Then we see Lucci strangle the old man, which is a horrible way to get rid of somebody who suspects that you're thousands of years old. A better way is to just say, I'm not thousands of years old, which most people will believe. But Lucci's not done making bad decisions. He strangles a priest and then just hangs out for several hours until it's nighttime. He tells Abby everything about himself and then just fucking lets her get in her car. Like, all right, well, see you later. And I also want to understand this part. The punishment for striking Jesus is eternal life. And you get that eternal life and then you decide to join the church. Like Father Lucci's got it all wrong.
I totally agree. It doesn't make sense, right? He's spending his time traveling the globe looking for these signs. Why? He knows this punishment's going to end. He knows one day judgment will come and his immortality will end. Don't walk around looking for signs. It's going to happen. What was it? It was Highlander, right? Spend your time, build some wealth, hide yourself, get some power. And what you do, you party like a rock star. Sin all you want. You're not getting into heaven. So why not have fun while you're here? Go buck wild. Be laying back like, woo, yep, I see the seas turn into blood. Get those strippers over here. Get me more cocaine, okay? Party, have fun, enjoy your life instead of just stressing. Ooh, is that a sign? He went about it all wrong.
So guys, this was bothering me like all week, and I had to go to the expert on Catholicism and eternal entities, and that was the King B. And so I'm like, King B, how is this a punishment? He's like, oh, young child, let me explain to you. There's a character called the Phantom Stranger in DC Comics, which is a play on the Wandering Jew story. So there's the story of the Wandering Jew. So basically, he was really pissed at Jesus, and he participated in the Passion of the Christ. Jesus was like, hey, why you whipping me? He cursed him to walk the earth forever. But here's the catch, is there's no pleasure. It's like food doesn't taste good to him. Like sex wouldn't feel good to him. Like he gets nothing out of anything. It's just like eternal existence, but nothing feels good. The difference being, of course, that the DC character decided to repent and be a good dude. Lucci's still going to be a prick.
Okay, so I'm going to pivot with the new information I've got. Why doesn't he facilitate the end of humanity? Go around corrupting people. Go around, use your power and your influence to get people to become just degenerates. Make the end come sooner. He could definitely do things to piss God off, right? Lead people down the path. Come up with a new synthetic drug. Do something. Don't walk around just being like boo-hoo. Find some joy even though you don't get pleasure.
And get a haircut while you're at it. Looks awful. Well, Abby flees from Lucci with Abby's aid, and together the two of them find a Bible to learn about what will happen next. They discover that the sixth sign will be a solar eclipse that will take place the next day, meaning that the fifth sign, the tortured death of a martyr for God's cause, must take place very soon. Abby realizes that clemency has been denied to Jimmy, and his execution will be the fifth sign. As she reaches the prison, Lucci kills Jimmy, wounds Abby, and is taken away by the guards.
Okay, so Emmett asked this question, and it's very valid. How did Abby get into the prison with some random kid with a yarmulke? This is the big execution. This is the hot ticket of the year. I could see if she walked up and she just went, hey, I'm, Jimmy's attorney's wife. Look, I'm very pregnant. Ooh, I need to talk to him. Maybe you let him in. But with some rando kid, how does this work?
I'm guessing because the execution was like in the middle of town and on the set of a CNC Music Factory music video. What's going on with like all the steam and the cages and shit? Is this where executions happen?
Yeah, I was waiting for that bass line to drop, and then just like the girls in hot pants, come around the corner. It's like, hey, Jimmy, it was about to get dark.
Also, is that how they put the cyanide tablets? Is it just like a weird fishnet hanging over a bucket? Is that how it works?
That seems reckless. The dude's hanging it really gently. I was picturing, like you guys said, a Janet Jackson video. They'd come kind of marching out, and then they're
We're all part of an execution.
Yeah, that's right. I think. So at this point in the podcast, I'm going to rely on you, Ashley. You're going to be the judge. And I want to present a thought that I think something happens in this movie that we're misled to where the plot goes. So the fifth sign states that the tortured death of a martyr for God's cause will trigger the next sign. So they say, okay, we're gonna stop that sign and save humanity. But Jimmy's death, it wasn't humanity's fault. God is the one who personally cursed Lucci to wander the earth. So in that way, Lucci shooting and killing Jimmy violated that apocalypse requirement. So God somehow created this contractual loophole that allowed Lucci to cheat. I think that God realized, oh shit, I fucked up. He shot him. That's kind of my fault. Man didn't do that. So he says, you know what? Kind of my bad. I'm going to give humanity a mulligan. I'm going to refill the guff with souls. And I'm just going to, kind of sit back and be like, oh, it was Abby's sacrifice. Yeah, she's the one. Don't blow the second chance. But it was really God who realized he put the pieces in play that took away man's free will. And he actually triggered that step.
Big D, if you keep talking like that, a pregnant woman's going to show up in your kitchen and stab you because you sound like a fucking crazy person. But I do appreciate that you used God, Lucci, Mulligan, and Guff in a single thought, and we have a recording to immortalize it.
Well, and I think it also brings us back to the whole interpretation thing that you brought up, right? Is that there's a million ways. And the thing that's always really shocked me about westernized religion, like Christianity, is how narcissistic it is. The fact that they write this book and you're part of the sign, right? It's your martyrdom. No, maybe not. And, growing up in church groups that I was, brought to weekly every Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday, we would do these massive studies of Revelation. The only book of the Bible I know is Revelation, because that was the only one that we read growing up. And I mean, I know the 23rd Psalm and, the stuff that's big in pop culture, but I know Revelation like the back of my hand. And we had this guy who would come in and he was an end times scholar to help us prepare for the end times. And he would tell us these interpretations about how in there was the prediction of the helicopter and the nuclear weapon. And he would bring out verses from the Bible that would prove that. And my favorite was that he had this prediction that he backed up with lines from Revelation that the Antichrist was going to be gay and be from the Carpathian Mountains, like Dracula. And he wasn't, So, I mean, you can make it be whatever you want to be. And all it is a constant mulligan, right? Because since I've been born, it's the rapture's about to take place and, clock's still ticking.
Ash, I appreciate you trying to defend it, but the Bible says a woman has no place teaching the Bible. It actually does say that.
It does. Thank you, biblical scholar.
Well, the eclipse begins along with a catastrophic earthquake. Abby goes into labor and is rushed to the disaster to a nearby hospital. Her child's heart stops beating as Abby gives birth, thus fulfilling the seventh and final sign, the birth of the soulless child. Finding true hope, Abby proclaims, "I will die for him," and reaches out to her child. Her soul is thus transferred to the child, saving him at the cost of her own life. Jesus appears in the hospital and tells Russell that Abby's sacrifice has refilled the Hall of Souls, ensuring that humanity will continue to survive.
So Abby here is portrayed as the hero, but I think the true hero is the doctors and nurses of that hospital. They busted their ass to deliver that baby. It is, I mean, we're talking apocalypse. This is, the walls are shaking. We see like the tiles pop off. Bing, 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 one by one. It's a disaster. And the doctors are in there. We're going to save this baby. Nurse, get over here. People are knocking down. Lights are falling. The baby comes out. Baby's alive. All of a sudden, boom, Abby flatlines. The doctors are like, let's give it 5 or 2 pumps. Yep, I'm calling it. She's done. Russell, the husband, doesn't even be like, wait a minute. Save my wife. I just saw what you did. You just saved the baby. Keep going. He might have been cool with her going, but these doctors and nurses, they just were like, hey, we did our one miracle for the day. And then they just fucking called it quits.
It's the same fucking crew from like the Cannonball Run and Internal Affairs. Like they're just fucking giving up. But I can't really blame them. Like if I've got a pregnant lady who's passed out in a church, she's been hit by hail, she stabbed a dude, she ran all around town, then she got shot and exposed to cyanide and is literally yelling out, "I'd die for him." I'm like, I'm calling it a day. Good day.
Yeah, and I don't know. I hate movie depictions of labor because labor is really not that hard. Like the baby's going to come out no matter what. So just like fucking deliver the baby. And I have questions. So are they saying a stillborn baby is soulless? Because I think I get super offended by that because I had multiple miscarriages too, like really late. And I don't know if I like the idea of them being soulless. And I don't know. It made me uncomfortable. And then like, what about the other baby she lost? Was it just like a trial run or because like he hadn't gotten to her yet? And then my final thing is if she transfers her soul, does that mean her husband is raising her? And is his child his wife? Like it's messy.
I was more confused if the guff is empty. Where did all these new souls come from?
Jesus.
I thought there's a finite amount of souls.
No, that's her sacrifice. So you got the guff. The guff is where all the souls fall from the tree of souls. Yeah. And then they go into the babies. But at some point, the guff is going to run out. And then that's when the Messiah comes.
Right. But he said he refilled it.
So is every soul now Abby? Are we all Abby?
No, her hope reinvigorated the tree of souls so that more fruits can drop.
But I am my hope. So therefore, are we bearing the fruit of Abby and we're all Abby? I don't know.
I don't know.
I'm an atheist, folks.
But this whole thing about hope, he makes a big deal. Oh, Abby's giant sacrifice. It was her hope that saved the world. This is bullshit. Any parent would die for their kid, especially in that moment. Okay. If that's all it takes to save the world and reset the guff, we're good. We're good. Every day this happens.
Yeah, it's a very different question. Would you die for your child or would you die for Jesus in Roman times?
No, but she died and her child came back to life. He got a soul.
That's what I'm saying. It's a very different question for a parent. Big D, if I asked you, would you die for your child or would you die for Jesus in Roman times? Like, fuck Jesus in Roman times, but yes, for my child.
That's not what happened. She was willing to die and get a soul for her kid.
When if they're okay, here's another issue I have is if the Hall of Souls is empty, why aren't there just like dead babies everywhere? Like, how are these babies being born every 3 minutes having a soul?
No. That was the first one. They ran out of toilet paper in the guff. No. This was the first. She showed up at Costco and they were all out of babies, souls. She was the first one without one.
I mean, it definitely complicates the abortion argument, right? Like that maybe the baby doesn't get their soul until they're born and, you know, maybe that's the one good thing to come out of this movie. But I have questions about the Hall of Souls too. I don't know about you guys, but all I could picture was like the Hall of Mysteries from the Ministry of Magic and the Order of the Phoenix. Like, is that what it looked like? You know, what are the souls housed in? What's the method of getting them into bodies? Where do they come from? And I think this is why I stopped going to church, is because once you start down this path of like question leading to question, it all just kind of unravels into the same thing like what you were talking about, Big D, about comparing it to Lord of the Rings, right? Like it all just kind of sounds like,
like horseshit.
Well, I don't want to say that because I mean, I think there's people out there and I don't want to disrespect your beliefs. If you believe in all of this, like totally believe in it. Like I don't really know what I believe in or don't believe in. Like I'm not an atheist like Gene is, but I'm certainly not a churchgoer. And so I think that, all of you out there, you have every right to believe what you want. But this is why it doesn't work for me, is because I drive myself crazy with these questions of like, is there a place in the ether beyond the black hole where the souls fall?
So I was going to say that it's all in translation. So like if you look at the Hebrew, like the guff, it's not the hall of souls, it's the treasury of souls.
True.
But I just realized that as soon as I said that to you, you'd be like, oh, so it's like Gringotts.
Right. Are they inside a vault somewhere? Do the gremlins bring them down? Do the goblins bring them down? Like, how does it work?
What blows my mind is they got to complicate it even further by they're like, yes, so there's the tree of souls and it drops its soul fruit down into the hall of souls, but then those souls fall up into the seventh heaven. And I'm like, cool. So what? And maybe that's why you need to go every week to learn more. What I learned from this movie, though, is everybody's fucked in the end. Like, that's the lesson, right? The movie ends with Lucci. He's still cursed. They like take him away. He doesn't get to find peace. Abby's dead. Russell, the dad, he's fucking alone. And then what does he do in response? He takes the baby and forces it to like stare at its dead mother for like a full minute. Look, that's your dead mom. And then poor Abby, the rabbinical student, he is face to face with fucking Jesus. And Jesus is like, yeah, create a New Testament. Poor Abby doesn't even believe in the New Testament. And Jesus wants like a New Testament.
I knew her.
Yeah, everybody loses but Jesus.
No, the one who loses is Lucci. He thought he had it bad before. He's now got to spend like eternity in the goddamn jail cell.
Well, now, yeah, and he can't even build his wealth and do his Highlander shit.
And you know what? He's not going to enjoy it when they feed him or if he got conjugal visits. So he's just got to sit there and look at the wall. He's the one who's screwed. And and David tells the poor, like the student, write it down. Let them know what you... Please, who's going to believe a book written by this kid? What's this kid done? People don't believe the Bible, and it's an ancient document. They're going to believe something this kid wrote?
I mean, a few million people believe the Bible.
Well, I was about to say, not so ancient when you go back to like the Council of Nicaea. Like that wasn't that long ago.
I do love, though, how you were saying that everyone can have they have their right to their religious beliefs.
Sure.
They bring up a great point in this. Every religion believes they have it right. The Muslims believe they got it right. The Catholics and the Christians, they got it wrong. And the one priest, I forget who played that role, I loved his approach to it. That it's less who got it exactly right, but it's more in your interpretation of it. And that's what I try to live my life. I try to live a good life. And then if God chooses to keep me out of heaven, if there is one, because I didn't read his book, I'm okay with it.
Yeah, but like, I mean, the stakes are a little high. Like, if you get the interpretation wrong, like the world ends. So, like, it isn't
in
just
that
about,
case, yes.
It isn't just about that. It's like, well, fuck. And it's not just about that, too. Like, that's why the stakes are so high for all religions and why they're able to, like, trap people in them for forever is because they truly believe it's the difference between, like, eternal damnation or not.
Who's your money on? Who do you think's got it right? Anybody? Anybody the big winner?
I think the Buddhists have it right. I think we're all like ocean waves, and sometimes the waves roll up and sometimes they roll back down. And because you can't destroy matter, right? Like that's just science. So we got to go somewhere. Something in us goes somewhere. It's just, I don't know, maybe we're all part of a supernova black hole, which would be pretty cool.
See, I was raised Baha'i and they kind of hedge their bets because they believe in progressive revelation. So it's that all the religions are just one religion, but humans got them mixed up. Smooth one, guys. That's a real 19th century move there.
Yeah.
But now's the time when we give our wipe scores. Wipe scores are our way of telling you how many wipes this movie would take to get off your respective butts. 0 wipes is a perfect score. It is getting stabbed to the chest with a kitchen knife and just emitting light because you're Jesus. And 5 wipes is an absolute disaster of a movie. It is running around in a hailstorm, finding yourself at an execution, getting shot, and then inhaling cyanide from some toilet tablets. Ash, we'll start with you. How many wipes did you give The Seventh Sign?
So I hate to say it, but I think this is a real waste of a movie and the waste of a plot device. I thought it was pretty boring. I didn't really care about it or the characters. I kind of just wanted it to end. And what I thought was such a bummer is that it wasn't as engaging as other films on the same topic that we've already mentioned. Or like, even if it had gone a different path, like Eugene, like, and I know you were joking, but talking about how like it could have been like a procedural legal drama that had weird shit happening. I mean, that's the plot of The Exorcism of Emily Rose, which is a terrifying movie. You know, it just had so much potential. And overall, the movie, it wasn't sinister enough. The stakes didn't feel high enough. It needed more scares. It just needed more drama that wasn't melodrama. And I hate to say this because I love her, but it just didn't need Demi Moore. She wasn't great in it. I don't know if she was the best choice for this character. I don't know who would be. You know, there's a movie we haven't mentioned, but there's like a Rosemary's Baby crazy pregnant lady movie out right now called False Positive, with Alana Glazer and Justin Theroux and Pierce Brosnan. And if you're looking for your like what the fuck movie of this year, it's that one because it's fucking bizarre. But like that movie goes further and does things that like this movie could have done. So I didn't love it. And because of that, I'm giving it 4 wipes.
Well, at the risk of always being twinsies, Ash, I'm also for wiping The Seventh Sign. I wasn't scared. I wasn't excited. I wasn't intrigued. And the only thing I was really concerned with was the welfare of Jimmy. Like, this movie has a great setup. It has a great mystery element with the old priest and Father Lucci, David Bannon. That whole triangle of characters could have been a lot of fun. But to do any of that, the Jimmy story or the mystery story, you need to take the focus off of Abby and make the movie a lot darker. So I think we're exactly in line on that. Abby doesn't work, and the movie just needs to be, as you said, more sinister. This movie is a wonderful candidate for a remake in an age of remakes. Like, you could really make this movie kick ass if you made it actually scary and shifted the focus a little bit. So for me, unfortunately, it is going to be 4 wipes as well.
So I want to focus on a word you both said, sinister. You need to have this sense of unease, that there's an evil that you can't see. At no point do I really feel the devil's kind of out there doing his thing. In the Prince of Darkness, they create almost these moments where you see the devil's army kind of gathering. And they use homeless people throughout around the streets of the church. And there's one in particular where a guy has died and the insects crawl up and kind of fill his body. And he's like, you will all die. And then the bugs collapse. that like creepiness where the hair stands up on the back of your neck. This movie, none of that. So I think the movie is forgettable, sadly, and it blends in with a lot of other movies from that time with "the" in the title. So for me, it is worse than what you two said. It is a 4.25 wipe movie. It was boring. It was not creepy, and it was dull. I just kept wanting it to be over. So I'm sorry, Emmett. Still love you, but this movie was pretty bad.
All right, 4.25 wipes from Big D, 4 wipes from Ash, 4 wipes from me. That gives us an average wipe score of 4.083, repeating for The Seventh Sign.
So, Gene, with a score of 4.08 wipes, that now places this movie alone in the 193 spot. It is slightly better than Westworld, Time Cop, Backdraft, and Tron, and slightly worse than Interspace, The Crow, Gleaming the Cube, and Arachnophobia.
Yeah. Well, I would just say out there, guys, if you're looking for something to commission that's spooky as fuck, that's going to scare all of us, and that we can talk about and be all giddy about how scared we were. We could even do a watch party on it because it would be so fun to watch together, would be The Exorcist 3. It's a phenomenal film. Somebody commission it, please. My birthday is Friday. Someone commission it.
Well, thank you, Emmett, for this commission. Big D, we got a load of voicemails this week. What do we want to get to first?
Well, Gene, before we get to our voicemails, we want to address the big question that everybody's had. Who won my mother's trivia contest and the free commission? So we had approximately 200 entries come in. And of the 200 entries, we had 23 listeners who got them all correct. So the way we're going to do this now is Gene cannot see the spreadsheet of entries. And I've numbered them here, 1 through 23. Gene, I want you to give me a number 1 from 23 at random and pick our winner.
I'll give you the number I always pick. It's 22.
Ooh, so number 22. This one came in on June 20th at 10 p.m., and it came from Benjamin K. So Benjamin K., congratulations. You won the prize. And you were right. The movies were Rambo, sexy oiled, running around the woods, killing people. The cowboy with the super friend, the dog and the ghost. That was Toy Story. The guy on the plane who had that problem, whose wife killed the girlfriend, that was Harrison Ford, presumed innocent. But this one, he was on a plane, so it was Air Force One. My biological clock is ticking. My cousin Vinny. Gertie finds a little friend, some M&Ms, and they take him home. E.T. The sexy guy with the hair and the big sword, that was Mel Gibson. The stupid guy who runs around in his underwear and flies a plane, that was Tom Cruise. The guy who's sick and drives a Ford Torino and goes back in time to play Johnny B. Good, that was Michael J. Fox. The actress that guys hate, women hate, but she could serve a great pizza, that was Mystic Pizza's Julia Roberts. And the girl with the earrings who give one to her brother and the rich one among those poor souls, that was Molly Ringwald. And of course, the role my mother was trying to describe was from The Breakfast Club. So congratulations to the big winner, Benjamin K. We will be emailing you to find out what your choice is for the free commission.
And guys, I got to say, I'm so impressed with that many people getting it right, because I am on this podcast and couldn't get it and couldn't crack the code. So hats off to you.
Well done.
So thank you, everyone who entered the contest. We appreciate it. It was a lot of fun. My mother's flattered by all the kind things people said.
She
still thinks she's, quote, a fucking idiot, but everybody sent her love. So I really like it. It means a lot to me. Maybe we'll do that again. I still have another roughly 20 movies we recorded that we could do. We'll have to see another day. But also, we want to get to the voicemails. And this week, we have a phone call from our wonderful listener, Tom in Crane, Texas. And he's wondering about his request for a special commission.
Howdy, Shat Crew. I forgot to ask when I called in that since I do not know how to access Twitch on my phone, therefore I won't be able to join you all on your Jeopardy Twitch stream. I was wondering how well we did getting the crowdfunding to special commission the movie Vacation. I also forgot to say when I called that I will be really happy and really want to pay the rest to meet the goal to get Vacation specially commissioned really soon. Please let me know how much more money I need to send to meet the goal. Thank you all to the Shat Crew for all you always do and all the many lives. And thank you all to the listeners who donated money to get Vacation specially commissioned. I hope you all have a great week.
Well, Tom, we have some great news for you. First of all, great pick for the movie. Lots of people were into this. And in fact, the gentleman who commissioned this film, The Seventh Sign, decided to fund, in addition to a couple of other listeners, your pick. So, Emmett, thanks so much for your generosity. And Tom, you are going to get that movie. You don't need to send in a dime. We also had contributions coming in via Twitch from SS Foulball, who says, "Here you go, Tom. Vacation was my childhood. Ready to listen to a great review. This is crazy. This is crazy." E-Rob Shy said, "I love you guys." Teresa M, Yvonne O, Pikes Peak USA all contributed. Two-Tone Karma chipped in and said, "Get a bevy, Tom, kid." And Rob Will Taylor also chipped in and said, "We need Holiday Road played in episode." So lots of people there with you, Tom. Thank you so much for this wonderful idea. And just as a reminder, if anybody missed that stream, the Jeopardy stream, Ash absolutely annihilated the rest of us. And you can catch it on replay. Just go to YouTube and look us up on our Shat on TV account for that stream replay.
I would recommend nobody watches that.
It was fun.
It was fun until I got down to like $100 or 100 points. It was terrible. Ashley took out her big stick and she just started smacking Gene and I down. It was a bloodbath.
Yeah, the final score was Ash was $20,400. Gene Lyons was $7,300, and Big D, as he mentioned, with $100.
I performed much better than 100 shows. Okay, I did very well. I was stuck with bad questions.
Were you?
Walkie-talkies. I was.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for calling in. We have some more voicemail to share next week, so stay tuned for that. Big D, what do we have coming up for the next movie?
Gene, next week, before he can graduate, cocky high school student Michael Corbin travels to France on a school trip to earn his missing French credit. But when a British intelligence agent mistakes Michael for a spy of the same name, they rush him to the headquarters to assign him to capture an evil Augustus Steranko. Using a plethora of espionage gadgets, Michael has the time of his life until he crosses paths with two assassins who want him dead. Commissioned by George J. And this one, man, I've never seen this, and I just don't know what we're in for. But from the poster, I think it's going to be a shit show.
This is the movie that inspired me to shave my body as a child.
Oh, my God.
Stay tuned, folks. Stay tuned.
Geez.
Well, thank you, George. Thank you, Emmett. And thank you to all of our commissioners. That concludes this week's episode of Shat The Movies. Be sure to follow us on social media and share with a friend. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, and Instagram as Shat The Movies. You can email us, host@shatthemovies.com, or call in like Tom did at 914-719-SHAT. Support the podcast by shopping our Amazon affiliate link, completing a free anonymous survey to help attract advertisers, buying our merch, or by commissioning your own movie. Find all that information by visiting our website, shatthemovies.com. Also, you can check out our sister podcast, Shat on TV, where we review TV series such as Lovecraft Country, Westworld, True Detective, Taboo, American Gods, Game of Thrones, and Watchmen. Find all that information on our website, shatontv.com. Wherever our fine podcasts can be found, including iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, and YouTube. Be sure to subscribe, and if you stop by iTunes, please be sure to leave a 5-star review. That helps the podcast grow. On behalf of my co-hosts, Big D and Ash, I'm Gene Lyons. Be sure to join us next week for the following movie.
Everyone makes mistakes. Take me, Michael Corbin. I was just your average underachiever flunking out of high school. And the only way to graduate was by taking a class trip to Europe with a French club.
Michael Corbin, first class.
First class? How? How? There's been a mistake here, which led to a case of mistaken identity.
Walk quickly, they already know you're here.
Hey, what are you doing?
Eric Richardson, British intelligence.
That turned me into a secret agent. Well, just who do you think I am?
Michael Corbin, deep cover agent for the CIA.
Michael Corbin, French class reject. Suddenly, I'm filling someone else's shoes.
They'll adhere to any surface.
And driving the company car. Get out of town. I can drive this baby out of here right now.
Yes.
Piece of cake. If I can just figure out how to get the window down. Yeah, funk driver's ed, too. I'm not complaining. They're gorgeous women.
Bonsoir, Monsieur Corbin.
Boner. Yes, soir.
There can be no more mistakes. Kill him.
And dangerous men. Now, all I have to do is rescue a beautiful girl.
We're all gonna die!
No, Corbin's here.
That's what I mean!
Save Europe. Graduate high school.
Who are you with?
The French club. Hey, no problem.
Richard Grieco, if looks could kill.